delighted and really proud. Um, and I didn't expect the extent of interest, both within Wales and Britain, but also around the world as well. I was pretty taken aback to see the number of countries that had covered the election. And I was full of hope as well, about wanting to do the job, but then the moment to be able to go out and make a difference as well. So, I didn't run to be a byline in history. I ran because I wanted to make a difference. And I hope I still have, but actually there's more to do. Lots more to do. But yeah, hope and optimism at the start and some pride. My family were very excited. My wife, my son, my in-laws, my sister, my brothers, all really, really delighted. And my older brother was able to come over for the swearing in as well. So yeah, my older brother and his wife came over from Denmark, which was brilliant.
So Vaughan, it is an absolute honour to have you on the platform. You're known as being a former First Minister of Wales. I see this as an important moment, not just in British history, but in Black history. So thank you so much for coming on.
No problem, happy to be here.
The first question I'd like to ask you is, you were born in Zambia in 1974. And by 1999, you were studying at Cardiff Law School at the University of Wales. And then by 2011, you become an MS in Wales. So what influenced your ambition to become a politician?
Well, to start off with, I didn't want to be a politician. When I was young, I wanted to be a cricketer, a singer, or a lawyer. And I was a solicitor for 10 years before I got elected to the Welsh Parliament, the National Assembly, as it then was. So it was a journey of becoming more aware of the world around me, becoming more aware of how the world and the country worked and the big role that politics had. And I joined the Labour Party when I was 17 because I thought it was the best vehicle for social justice in the country. I didn't want to be a politician then, but I wanted to be involved in something to make a difference. And so I got a bit more involved in university. I then got more involved afterwards, and I stood for council in 2004. And I won my seat by a very close margin. I lost it by a fairly narrow margin too. And I was still in work during that time as a solicitor. I got promoted, 3 promotions in the time I was a councillor. And that meant I had more responsibility in work, and the balance of balancing your job that pays your bills and also being a councillor was hard. And it was a single member ward, so it was just me. And losing the seat made me think about what I wanted to do. And I did think then, definitely, that if I had a chance to do that full time, then I'd want to. And then the selection came up and I ran and I was successful. And so there's all the things in between, from student politics to personal experience to getting involved in a trade union, getting involved in the trade union movement, being a shop steward, and then my job as an employment. All those things contribute to why I ended up in the Senate in the first place.
And it was interesting, you said you wanted to be a cricketer or a singer. So I wanted to ask you, who are your favourite cricket players and who are your favourite singers?
So growing up at Somerset, Joel Garner and Viv Richards and Ian Botham were there, and they were 3 of my favourites. So that West Indian team of the late 70s, early 80s, into the mid 80s, that was completely dominant, Clive Lloyd's team. So Clive Lloyd was a big hero as well. And then mostly, people from when Ian Botham was slim and a world beater, all that sort of era. So Botham and Gower, and me and my brothers would do like impressions of different cricketers, especially bowling or batting. So yeah, I really enjoyed cricket at that time. My father played for the local village cricket team, and it's fair to say we were all better cricketers than him eventually. But we loved cricket, and it's hard to explain to my son now about the fact that things really were different then. There were 3 channels when I was growing up. I remember Channel 4 being created, and to go through and try to explain how the world was different then. But yeah, cricket was a really big love, and I loved playing cricket when I was younger. And as an adult, I played lots of cricket as well. I stopped when I got elected because there just wasn't enough time to do it. I played a bit of midweek cricket, but then I stopped. But Yeah, it's all that time. And also the other thing about that time is the great all-rounders. Both of them, Richard Hadley, Imran Khan and Kapil Dev. And I met Kapil Dev once as well, which was amazing. But yeah, there's a few. I could talk all day about cricket though, and I guess you want a bit more than cricket reminiscence for the interview.
And the second part of the question, you like karaoke, so who are your favourite singers?
Otis Redding is one of my favourite singers. So I love all the Motown soul sound, and I love the sort of Atlantic and Stax vault sound as well. I like a bit of James Brown, but I like quite a number of things. I like opera as well. I do like a bit of modern pop, although my wife now says it's not really modern pop anymore. What I like, sort of stuck in the noughties and 2010s. But so I like lots of music. But yeah, if I'm singing, then I'll want to sing My Girl is my first song, then Dock of the Bay, and then Jimmy Ruffin, What Becomes the Broken Hearted. They're my three standard songs on the karaoke.
Thank you so much for that. And in an interview with GQ, you mentioned in 1976 your father's offer of work was withdrawn once the employer saw his family. How do you think UK race relations have developed since that moment took place?
Again, it's hard for people my age and younger who didn't directly experience as older children or adults what happened in the 70s, then on the 60s and 50s. So you go back to the signs that you can see in a book, but we didn't have to experience. Our parents or grandparents' generations did. And you can imagine coming in and saying, no dogs, no Irish, no blacks. And, those signs really existed. The Smethwick by-election, where, it was if you want, who was a colour, or if you want a nigger for a neighbour, then vote Labour. But the infamous and openly racist by-election run by a Conservative candidate. And in the 70s, the National Front was still very real and on the streets of Britain. So going from then, where the law and actually popular opinion didn't protect people, to where we are now, there has been real progress. And I don't think we should claim that nothing is, everything is the same and nothing's got better. I don't think that's true. And I remember, race rights when I was a child, the rights in Toxteth and Brixton, comments made by the chief constable in Liverpool, were openly racist, talked about, the reason why there was a coloured population in Blackpool was about black seamen and prostitutes. And it's like all the stuff now that was said at the time that would see people run out of office today. But I do think in this sort of last decade or so, we've moved backwards a bit. So we went through a period of time where there was real progress on race relations, partly because some things got normalised. So, and again, this is one of the things about you look back. So I remember when Viv Anderson would probably be the only black person in the Wales football team. And I don't remember black football players in the Welsh team. There were some at various points in time, but I don't remember that as part of it. And Glenn Webb was the only black Welsh rugby player during my childhood that I was conscious and aware of. And I was certainly aware of Welsh rugby teams that were all white. Now, it's very hard to imagine a Wales or an England football team that was all white. And yet, that was quite common. And so it's hard to get over how different things were then and how they are now. And even like, the infamous picture of John Barnes flicking a banana off the pitch. You still see some of that behaviour, but it was so much more prevalent and accepted. And, you were basically in a position where you either tolerate it or you don't get on. And actually, if you can't or won't tolerate it, the problem is you. And you don't have a chip on, you don't have a sense of humour, or you have a chip on your shoulder if you complain about it. So a lot of that stuff has moved on in a way that is really positive. As it's quite normal for people to hero worship footballers, rugby players, cricketers. Cricket's actually gone backwards, actually. Cricket's still very elitist. But you didn't have that when I was young. When I was 10, things really were really different. In the last 10 years or so, what has happened is there's been a renormalization or a level of acceptance about overt racism. So, indirect discrimination, and what they call unconscious bias was always there. But actually, for a period of time, it was really quite unacceptable to be overtly racist. And yet now I don't think that's the case. For most people, it still is unacceptable, but the social attitudes of a number of us has changed a great deal. And I think we've lost some of the ground that we thought we'd won. And I think that's a problem, not just for people like you and me, but I think it's a problem for the country, because we're less at ease with ourselves. We're more likely to be divided by people along lines that really should not matter. And if you're prepared to question someone's right to be in the country because of the colour of their skin, they're in a really, really terrible place. But actually, there are people who are openly content to do that. Whereas actually, in in 2010 compared to now, I think we have more battles to fight and to win. And then to be clear that the ground we're standing on is firm under our feet and can't get taken away. So you don't get told you're here because I allow you to be here, rather than actually I'm as entitled to be here as any other British citizen, and I'm actually here because I want to make a difference in my country, and I don't need someone else's permission to do that. That shouldn't be a revolution or a difficult thing to say out loud, and yet not everyone feels that way. So we're in a really difficult moment that I think there's still lots of division for a number of different reasons, and it is about making sure that the tropes and the difficulties that we still hear, that stuff about you've got a chip on your shoulder, you don't have a sense of humour, why are you always difficult, why are you angry, why are you so uppity, all of those things are still there for different people. And resolving those will be better for everyone in the whole country, not just for you and me.
Thank you for that. And following on from that, on the 20th of March 2024, you became First Minister of Wales. Now, to put this in perspective, you were the first black leader of any major European country. And it was a big moment in history. What did it mean to you and your family when you became First Minister?
Well, I was delighted and really proud. And I didn't expect the extent of interest, both within Wales and Britain, but also around the world as well. I was pretty taken aback to see the number of countries that had covered the election. And I was full of hope as well, about wanting to do the job, but then the moment to be able to go out and make a difference as well. So, I didn't run to be a byline in history. I ran because I wanted to make a difference. And I hope I still have, but actually there's more to do. Lots more to do. But yeah, hope and optimism at the start and some pride. My family were very excited. My wife, my son, my in-laws, my sister, my brothers, all really, really delighted. And my older brother was able to come over for the swearing in as well. So yeah, my older brother and his wife came over from Denmark, which was brilliant.
Wow. And being, the First Minister, there was a lot you had to deal with in the public light, constant media coverage of what you were doing, things surrounding Dawson Environmental Group, no confidence. I want to merge all of these questions into one. Please just tell us about some of your successes and challenges you faced as First Minister and how you overcame them.
One of the first challenges is actually getting elected. It's a competitive election, and you've still got to persuade people that you're the right person. And you can't run a campaign of grievance that says it's not fair. Other people have advantages. You've got to go out and say, I think I'm the best for this reason. Then, it was a difficult time through the campaign with a number of things that were said, but I also had to appear in the COVID inquiry for a full day in Wales during that time as well, which was unusual. The challenge then comes about whether you're going to get the space to do the job. And the difficulty is, if you complain and say, I'm not being covered fairly, then that in itself becomes a story. And so actually, how you try and build a team that can all work around the outcome of the election that individual members are voted on, and then how the government gets to succeed. And we actually had a really good general election result in Wales. And, there was no hiding away, no shying away from doing the campaigning, being front and centre. a really good set of results. 27 out of 32 MPs in Wales are Labour. And it's still everything. It's still all. It all ended when 4 people from the government resigned. So in some of that, you have to look and say, well, those are all the things that went wrong. But the general election, a really good result. Trying to reform some priorities as well, because at every point when you get to midterm, you need to reconsider where you are. I think where you want to be, not just in advance of an election, but actually how you make sure that the priorities of the government match where the public is as well. And we went through something that I think made a real difference in being able to do that. And the current First Minister, Eluned Morgan, has been out on a listening exercise, and the priorities she's come up with from that exercise with the public, they're not very different from what I was doing or wanted to do as well. I still think, though, the election also highlighted Wales in a way that it's very hard to do otherwise. And the challenge is, I think, how you build on that and still have ambition for the country. That's one of the things I wanted to do to change the narrative about Wales is we're a country with real achievements, and we should be a country with high ambition and expectation for the future. And we need to build ourselves up and not look for reasons to knock each other down. I still think we could and should be more ambitious and proud of what we do really well. And I hope that's something I can still add to in the future. So, I'm not giving up, and I still think there's lots more to do. I'm only 50, I've got plenty of road ahead of me. So I still want to make a difference for Wales and Britain, and I hope I get a chance to do that.
That's brilliant. And I also wanted to ask, what would you have done if you were First Minister now? What would you have done differently compared to what you've done in the past?
I think some of these, when you understand at the end how people felt, you always have the opportunity to potentially go back and try and do something about that. And look, in all of it, if you know what happens now, you do things differently. I always think the people who say, I have no regrets, I do everything absolutely the same. It's like, well, it can be a brave thing to say. It can also just show a real lack of insight. If you had the opportunity to go back and do things differently, of course you would. But actually, how you get people around you, including people who don't start by agreeing with you, into a position where you recognise we all need each other for us to be successful. And I'm sure there are things I could have done. I don't want to give a blow-by-blow account on those because I think that gets to be unhelpful. Because part of my perspective now is I know that there are problems we have in the here and now in terms of Welsh Labour, politically, challenges for Wales and for Britain. I want Eluned Morgan to be successful. I want to be helpful in being successful. And I don't think that I help that to happen if I go through and give a list of 10 things I'd have done differently or different things I'd have done or said to different people, because I think that gets you into an understandable conversation of the past, but it takes away from where we are today and the future. And so I want to be helpful in the future, and I want to do something that can make a difference in the future as well. There may be a time to have a longer blow-by-blow account, but I don't think that's now. I think now is how you help me to be part of a team. And we know we've got some, there are lots of people I know are angry about that, but we've all got to think about how we make a difference, about where we are. That's the perspective that I take. I hope that other people look at what they're doing now and how they can make a difference that's positive, rather than simply looking to say, I was right, and so I'm going to keep on going till everyone agrees with me. I think that sort of approach gets you into a hole very quickly.
Firstly, I just say, I'm really blown away by the answer, because it's amazing how you've taken, everything that you've gone through and you've turned it into something really positive. I think that's testament to the type of person that you are. So it's really encouraging to see that. And one thing I'd also like to talk about, which I also found very, very great about you, is the way how you handled media attention. Now, when you're famous or you're in the public light, you have to deal with a lot of media attention, and you have to be a certain type of person to deal with that, because some people crumble under pressure while others handle it. How did you deal with the media attention? I mean, you were First Minister then, but you're still in the limelight now. So how do you deal with media attention?
Well, some of it is saying no. You don't have to take every opportunity to speak. But it's also to be clear about what you want to say and not to get pushed into a corner. And look, I'll go back to one of the things I said earlier. There are times where you can feel that media attention isn't fair and you're not being fairly represented and presented. If you want to try and fight that in public, then you create more noise. And you've got to think about, are you going to win that fight? And does it help? And that can be difficult. But there are times where it really isn't worth having a fight. There are other times where it absolutely is. And choosing and understanding that isn't straightforward. And I always think you should try to be calm. And I learned this because I had one terrible interview when I was a junior minister. And it went badly wrong, and the journalist was being prickly and difficult and not fair. But actually, when I said, look, I've answered your question, it's the third or fourth time, it's not fair, and then I lost my cool and I walked away. And actually, all of the entirely reasonable stuff that I'd been saying for the 3-4 minutes on camera first, all got blown up the water. And the only story was me walking away. Mm-hmm. And so there are times where both you need to be more in control of what you're saying, but you also need to know that if you make a mistake like that, that's the story. And so, I was very clear, I'll never do that again, because that just makes you look terrible. And then people will watch it and think, oh, I shouldn't. So, you as well as recognizing that someone's being deliberately prickly when they know they shouldn't, all of that stuff you can think about. You need to keep that in your head, and you still need to think about, I'm the person on camera, I'm the person in front of the microphone, and I need to maintain myself and not get drawn into a difficult reaction. That's easier on some days than others, it's fair to say. But look, I have always tried throughout the last few months to keep my dignity. I didn't break any rules. I haven't broken any rules. I followed the rules throughout as a minister and in the contest. I've tried to be decent to people. I have been decent to people. And in the end, it wasn't enough for me to be still the First Minister and to be a success in the way I wanted to change the country for the better. But I still want at the end of this to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, I've still got my dignity. And the way I behave matters more than the way other people behave. So I think that matters when you're in front of a camera or microphone, as well as in other parts of your life as well. So that's how I try and do things. But we're all human, we're all people, and we all make mistakes, and sometimes they're in front of a camera.
Mm-hmm. And I also think that one thing that was interesting was BBC's coverage. So they actually said that they mentioned that your election victory was never accepted. Why do you think it was never accepted?
Well, look, some people struggled with the results, and it was quite close as well, fairly close. But if you get into the story about why people felt that, then I think if you completely believe in the person you're supporting, sometimes it'd be a struggle to say, well, why haven't you? But actually, everyone is supposed to buy into that. And there have been leaders of the Labour Party that I've been happy about and less happy about. You can go and have your discussion within your party about that. But actually, when it comes to election time, you can't say, please vote Labour, but I hate the person who's leading us. That never works. And, and we're in government here. And I think you've got to be able to work as a team for it to work. And, it's pretty obvious that some people weren't willing to do that. And if you can't bring your group with you, then it's really hard to stay in office, because all the questions are generated from your own group. So you can deal with the opposition in the media, but this is about how we work, and it's why I go back to for us to heal and to unite as a group, Aline Ed Morgan needs to be a success, and I will do everything that I can to help her to be so. And everyone else needs to make the same contribution as well. Because if we all do, then we all get to be successful. And I'll look to the future and what I'll do after 2026 when I leave the Welsh Parliament.
Well, I didn't know you were going to leave the Welsh Parliament, but thank you for telling me and also my audience. But one thing also I want to think about regarding you is that so many young people are going to read about you in the history books, and they're going to want to follow in your footsteps. They're going to say, Vaughan did it, so maybe I can do it. What would be your advice to a young person that wants to be the next Vaughan Gething because you've shown them that it is possible?
The starting point is you shouldn't be the next Vaughan Gething, you should be you. And you need to think about what it is about you that you think can be successful. And who you think you are and how you help to make life better for other people around you and a community and a country. And sometimes that sounds like a bit up yourself. You say, I think I can make the country better. But actually lots of us can in a whole range of different ways, including the people that run for office and people that lead a nation. And I think, as well as understanding who you are, you should be proud of the ambition to be better and to make life better. And you shouldn't ever feel you need to apologise for wanting to be successful on your own terms, for wanting to make the country a success. Because actually that's what we want from leaders, from politicians. A leader in a public service or a private business or the third sector, you want that person to be successful, to make a difference with the people they work and the people they work for. I think the other part is that you need to remember you need friends. You need friends on the way up and on the way down. And I'd say you need at least two types of friends in politics. You need friends who are with you come what may, but you also need friends who can tell you when they think you've got something wrong and you're prepared to listen to them and agree with them. Because if you only have friends who tell you, I'm with you 100%, come what may, and you're right, well, that's where I think things get difficult, because everyone gets stuff wrong. And if you disagree with those people who are telling you that, you still need to know that they're your friends. And that can be hard sometimes. The other part is, as well as hard work, luck can play a part. That's true as well. But actually, you need to go and earn it as well. No one's going to give you a position. If you turn up into a room you've never been in before, and you don't know anyone in there, and you say, please choose me, I'm brilliant. If they've never met you, a lot of people say, well, I've never met you, I don't know who you are. You're telling me you can be a great campaigner, you can be a great leader. I've seen none of that, so why would I choose you? And the other part is there's something about how we all help each other. So within my party, but other parties and fields too, about how people support each other to see and take up opportunities. And that's people who need to be allies, but also we need to be allies to each other as well. So there's a number of different things that we need to do. So if people want to see a life in politics at any level, local, regional, national, international, I still think know who you are, have the ambition, be proud of your ambition to make a big positive difference. Make sure you have friends who can be honest with you, and make sure you understand that people will want to know why would they trust you and how can you demonstrate that that's who you are as well. And in all of those, you need alliances with a range of different people. And, none of that is a dirty business, because to get on in life, you need a lot of those things. If you ask people in a small workplace or a large workplace, they'll talk about workplace politics. And a lot of the things I just talked about, well, they apply in your normal workplace. People want to know, is this person running my team? Do they know what they're talking about? How do I know? How do I trust them? And I think the point around needing friends is not just friends, but I really think you should try to behave the way towards other people, the way that you'd like to be treated yourself. It's possible, in a high pressure job, there are times people say things that are mean or under pressure, can be difficult or sharp. But actually, most people make allowances for that. If you're consistently unpleasant or difficult, if you don't give people credit for their work when they've done something, if you never say please or thank you, all of that gets noticed. And there are some people say, I don't care. I will get on regardless. That isn't the way I feel about life. And people who behave like that are not people who I want to help. We get a choice about how to do that. Hey, if you really do believe in making the world better, you should try and treat people around you decently well.
Thank you, Vaughan. And I'd also like to ask you, outside of your political career and your karaoke and your, your cricket, what else do you like doing?
I would like cooking. So
Okay.
I like cooking with the family. So yeah, I enjoy cooking. Yeah. So I make a good Sunday dinner. Pork and chicken being the two particular Sunday dinners. I like time on the barbecue. I make a decent curry. So yeah, I enjoy cooking. And I just enjoy doing normal things. I enjoy walking the dog. I enjoy being a dad on the touchline, and there's normal stuff that I enjoy. I even enjoy spending time with my wife every now and again as well. If we get time and we're not too tired, so the normal things in life are things that I enjoy. There's things that I might do if I had more time, but I enjoy being busy as well. I'm not ready to put my feet up and watch daytime TV and old cricket videos all day. I still want to do things in working life and life outside that as well. So yeah, making time to not be at work is an important thing as well, I think. So yeah, and cooking is part of that. Normal stuff with the family, another big part. It helps keep you grounded. It really does.
Thank you. And one of the last questions is, as you leave politics, what will you be looking to do next?
I've decided. So a number of people have asked me what I want to do. There's a couple of people suggesting and hinting at offers. I know that I don't need to say yes to the first thing I'm offered. So I'm taking a week or two to think about it, and we'll go from there, because I still think I have something to offer. There's stuff that I can do whilst I'm still in the Parliament here as well, in the Welsh Parliament, and there's stuff for me to do after 26. So I'm thinking through all of those things, and when I decide, I'll be happy to have another chat with you.
Thank you so much, Vaughan. It's been an absolute honour to have you on the platform. This is an interview that I really do cherish because of its significance. So thank you so much for being such a great guest.
Thank you, and thank you for the time. I appreciate it.